Hey everybody, we are live again tonight, doing a little Facebook live chat with all of our Facebook friends, and we hope that you are able to join us and ask some questions, and we can answer them for you. Tonight is a special night for us because it's the third Thursday of the month, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's Bunko Night. So I have Susan here with me, along with 12 of our closest friends. We've been friends for years and years, and we do this every month, and it's super fun. And so, you know, we're taking some time out for you guys, our Facebook friends, and then we'll get back to some fun. So we have, since it's back to school week, we're going to talk about back to school and some questions that you might have. So I know that this week everybody's probably getting back to school or meet the teacher night and getting their school supplies ready, checking out their lockers and all that fun stuff, which I actually miss. All of our boys are out of high school now and in college, and it's kind of sad. So enjoy those times. All right, so the first question that we have is actually from Wendy. And Susan's going to read our questions for us, and then hopefully I can answer them for you. Okay, Susan?
Hi, y'all. Nice to see you. So the first question comes from Wendy, and she wants to know that she's considering purchasing a home in Little Elm, but it's Frisco Independent School District. So is there any chance that that school could be rezoned to Little Elm?
Confidently, I can actually say that will not happen. A little trivia for our Facebook viewers is Frisco was actually Frisco ISD and the boundaries were actually drawn up in 1902. And when they did that, if you guys will go to Frisco ISD and look at their map, it's really kind of crazy. I mean, it's jaggedy and it's just a crazy boundary line. That's why you get, you know, so many different, you get Little Elm and Plano and McKinney, all in the Frisco ISD school district. So what would have to happen in that case is the two districts would have to get together and agree to change the zoning. And the big one that we hear in Frisco is a community called Stonebriar. And Stonebriar is a very prestigious area of Frisco, and a lot of the Frisco residents that live there always ask, why can't we be rezoned to Frisco ISD? It just doesn't make any sense. But you can imagine if that's a very influential part of Frisco, very high dollar prices, Louisville ISD that it shares with is actually, you know, would have to agree to give that back to Frisco ISD, and they're just not going to do that. So I've actually had conversations with board members at Frisco ISD and confidently can tell you no. So you are safe. You don't have to worry about that. You will never be rezoned. Now you'll be rezoned within Frisco ISD. That will happen. But getting out of Frisco ISD will not happen. So hopefully that answers your question there. And we can move on to the next one. Do we have another question, Susan?
Yes, we do. Okay. The second question comes from Jennifer. She would like to know, she's going to be building or moving into the Pearson Middle School zone.
Okay.
Can she go ahead and enroll her kids even though she has not moved there yet?
No. Frisco, because it's changing, they build their curriculum around their enrollment, and they, you know, are keeping with the small school philosophy. So they will not allow you to do that. What they will make you do is if you have a contract, if you're going to build a house or you are purchasing a home and you actually have an executed contract, they will then let you enroll into the school that it's zoned to, okay? But if say you're renting and you know you're going to build, but you haven't signed a contract yet, you will start out where you're zoned. And then you can transfer once you do get a contract. You can transfer into that new school. So until you have an actual contract, you cannot, you know, you have to go where you're zoned for. One thing I'm going to add to that is with the growth of Frisco right now, there is an issue. We've had a couple of clients that have moved into a subdivision, think they're getting fed to a certain school, but that school maybe at capacity. So I think it's if it's beyond 100 students, and we have teachers here, I should ask them, but I believe it's if it's at capacity beyond 100 students, then that school's going to close. So you may buy a house right across the street from Kurt Singer Elementary. I know that one's maxed out right now, but you would be rezoned to another school that's not at capacity. And that would happen, and then the next year you would probably then have to reapply and to get back into the school that's you're actually originally zoned for. So if you have any questions on that, let us know. But that's kind of an issue that we're seeing with the growth, the rapid growth here in Frisco ISD. So a lot of movement and changing going on within the district, but going back to Wendy's question, you won't be rezoned outside of Frisco ISD, you're just going to be in Frisco ISD. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense for you. Mm-hmm. So anybody else? We have any other questions? Let's see. Any more coming in? Okay. I think that's all we got on those two questions there. Mm-hmm. I will tell everybody, if you are not sure, and when buying a home, you get your MLS sheet, and it'll say, yes, it's zoned to, Clark Middle School. Double check, because sometimes you get listing agents that may not be from this area, and they may put something from an old listing on there that's not actually accurate. So always double check. We always tell our clients to go to the Frisco ISD website, and there is I think it's Frisco ISD, and then it's attendance zones, and you can actually plug in your street and your address, and it'll show you exactly where you're zoned for. So go straight to the source, know exactly where you're supposed to be. Okay. So I think that's all the questions that we have at this time, but go back and look at those boundary lines again. If you haven't seen them for Frisco, they're pretty interesting. And going back to Wendy's question, when I was talking to the guys from Frisco ISD, they did let me know that it was even more crazy way back when, 1902, it was that they formed Frisco ISD and had, drew the boundary lines, and the one that was between Frisco and Prosper was actually really crazy apparently. So those two school districts actually got together and made it more of a straight line. So if you see going from Frisco to Prosper, it is more of a straight line rather than so jaggedy as you would get if you're on the west side of Frisco or on the east side in the McKinney area. So it's pretty cool. Go look at that. It's quite interesting. So yes, way back when, Frisco and Prosper actually agreed to make that straighter, to make it a little more easier to figure out. But as far as it happening in the future, it's not going to happen. So yes, so another little bit of information here talking about Frisco ISD. When our kids started in Frisco ISD, there were 5 elementary schools. And I see Kyle Dilworth has joined us. He is one of our, my oldest son's friends since they were 5. And yes, when they started kindergarten, there were 5 elementary schools. Now there's 40. There's 9 high schools, there's 16 middle schools, and there's actually 40 elementary schools, and it's still growing, So that's quite kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So it's, you can imagine all the growing pains that they've experienced, but we feel very, very good about our kids going through the Frisco ISD system and couldn't be more proud. So we will talk about another thing, talking about back to school that we're excited about is my son Tanner is actually going to be headed to Europe next week, and he will be starting a master's program in Paris. So, of course, the parents have to take their kids to school. So, Mike and I will be traveling with Tanner, taking him to school, and we'll be live next week from London. We're going to fly into London, spend a few days, and then go to Paris, drop him off, and then cry all the way home. So,
proud of Mama.
Okay, so next week, 8 o'clock, we'll be in London. Then the next week, I love you too, Matthew. Next week after that, we'll be in Paris. So stay tuned for that, because we're gonna try to show you some cool properties in Europe, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on there. We have a stalker at the window, so we've really got to go. But thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Bye. Oh my gosh, you scared me.